From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Closing Bell and Big 10 preview with Riley Magnuson, Thursday, October 26th, 2023. Next Wednesday, Riley, is November 1st. Trick or treat on Tuesday. Happy Halloween. And on Monday, my daughter, Caitlin, will turn 25 years old. Holy cow. But first, shout out to the men behind the glass, Mr. Joe Shea, Mr. Evan Lewis, Olu Bennett, and Cade Horton. Shout out to our new partnership and sponsor, WagerWire. If you have not, I repeat, have not, download this app, please go over to Google Play and wherever you download your apps, download it. It's free. Now then you can start tracking your bets, tracking your ROI. That's a crazy concept for a lot of people. I actually have to track my bets? Yeah. Are you winning, losing, paying the man every week? Look down below at all the sports books that are offering free promos, match play, et cetera, et cetera. If your state's viable, please jump on that. And with Christmas coming in just 2 months, actually 10/26, Riley, it is less than 2 months from now. Send an email to affiliate at wagerwire.com. Tell them JD at ECSI sent you. Travis, Zach, and the rest of the fabulous team will take good care of you. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Southside Riley himself. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my friend. Happy Thursday afternoon, evening. So, yeah, you mentioned it. We've got good stuff going on. No, I mean, we don't need to spend too much time on it, but tracking your bets, just to go off on a little sermon there. I'm sure I've done it before, and it's probably been a while, at least on this show, but for a lot of people that do this quite a bit and maybe in their head have their own specialties and stuff that they can talk until the cows come home on, there might be some areas and leagues that you probably don't realize you have more success than you're realizing, or spots where you think you're hot stuff in that you're actually not doing that well in, and you maybe need to tweak some stuff and work. Take a second look at it. I mean, it's so important to for example, I've been tracking bets for a long time now, but I can't. You and I have great conversations as far as PGA. It takes me a lot of research to be able to sit on a show and talk with you and sound educated about PGA. My ROI on PGA is better than anything else that I've got going for me. I've got good ROIs in other sports. Don't get me wrong. But had I not been tracking that, it's like, yeah, you know what? I do have some good success with PGA, but I wouldn't say that's my specialty. And again, I as far as being on a show such as this or other shows like it, I can't talk about it as much as I can talk about these other sports. But, once you realize your ROI is legitimately good, you can, find ways to attack that and set it up. And like I said, vice versa, in spots where you think you're hot stuff and maybe your, tracking tracking doesn't lie, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The tracking doesn't lie. And especially if you do it over time and long enough, maybe you see some upswings and downswings that are anomalies in what you got going on, but over time it doesn't lie. So it is very important to do if you are, even if you're doing this for fun. I mean, it's fun to win. It's not fun to be 2-20 and maybe have some fun and watch some action, but it'd be a lot more fun to realize that you need to stop doing whatever you're doing and at least tweak some things and find different ways to do it. So at least a little bit of a opening show sermon as opposed to a closing show sermon like you and I typically do sometimes. It's worth mentioning every now and then, and obviously WagerWire is awesome for
it. And that's a great way to start. ROI, return on investment. And to be successful in these lanes, they say 51.9% is your break-even point, because most wagers are based upon minus 110. What's minus 110? Obviously, when you go to the window and want to win $100, like I'll take Buffalo minus 9.5 versus the Bucks tonight. Well, if you want to win 100 on Buffalo tonight, you have to risk 110 on Buffalo minus 9.5. Hope that they win by 10 or more, and then you will be able to go back and the casino or sportsbook will pay you $100 because you won, and then they will give you your original 110 back. But if you lose, that $10 is called the VIG, or the juice, obviously, and that's what they make. As I say, in a perfect world, they have $1 million on the Bills, $1 million on the Bucks tonight. They don't care who wins, because after it's all said and done, they would have made their 10% or $100,000 on the game, and they'll be waiting for your next wager. Tracking bets is so huge because, if you get away from the minus 110s, you start playing money lines. Money lines are just win babies, but they come at a cost. For instance, if the Patriots were playing the Jets and the Patriots were minus 3, you take them minus the 3, minus the 110. If they win by 3, it's a push. If they win by 4 or more, you win. Well, some people will say, I think they're going to win. I don't trust the 3. So they'll play the Patriots minus 145 on the money line. That means if they want to win 100, they have to risk $145. And those start to add up. So my whole point here is your ROI, if you're averaging minus 115, minus 120s, minus 125s, or 130 in a long-term segment, your 51.9% now gets up to that 53, 54%, 55%. So in other words, for every 100 bets at minus 110, you need to win 52 and lose 48, and you're supposed to break even. But if your ROI is 115, 118, 120, now you got to win 55 and lose 45. So tracking them is huge there. But go ahead. We'll get more and more in depth as the days and weeks go on here with WagerWire, myself and Riley, and we'll be having some tutorials on this. Wanted to shout out Marty Lowe, Roll Tide, Marty. And this one goes to both of us here, Riley. I'll let you throw some stuff in after, too. Any thoughts on DraftKings lineup in fantasy tonight? A 4-3 Bills team where we want to say, who are they? A team that lost opening day to the Jets at New York, come back and then start rolling. They win 3 in a row at home against Vegas. They put up 40. They put 37 up in Washington. Come back home to Miami, put up another 40 burger to get to 3-1. But since then, they lose in London to the Jaguars. They come back home on a primetime game against the Giants, and they squeak by that game. And then they just come to New England and lay an egg there. So short week, hopefully short memory, and the cavalry gets cranking if you're on the Buffalo side. So, Marty, you're looking for that game flow. If you were looking on the Buffalo side, obviously Josh Allen, his go-to guy is Stephon Diggs. But you got to kind of cheat the system. Maybe Gabe, who was a no-show last week, maybe you have to go to Gabe. Now you need someone on the Bucs side. Is it Mike Evans? Is it Godwin? Or do you get cute and go Rashard White? For Buffalo, Knox is on the IR, so if you wanted to get cute and use a tight end on the Buffalo side, it's the rookie Kincaid. So I have in some fantasy some Cade Otton. That's a sneaky guy as well there. So enough from me. Let's go over to Riley and your thoughts on potentially some fantasy tonight.
Yeah, to echo kind of what you're saying there. The one that I would be pretty over the moon about it if he had some injury designations this week, neck injury questionable, but he's going to be good to go. And everything I read said he's going to be fine, shouldn't be affected by it. But the Bills lately, their pass game, obviously, since they've had these injuries, have not been as good, and they've had some trouble with not so much the Mike Evans type receiver, but more so the Chris Godwin type receiver. So I kind of like Chris Godwin a little more, at least yards wise. Obviously, Mike Evans, he could have 4 catches, 30 yards, but one or two of them could be a touchdown. You know what I mean? So for that one, I guess I'm kind of hesitating as far as that is concerned, but I think Godwin's got the better potential to have an 8 for 85 type game as opposed to Mike Evans tonight. Obviously, I could be eating my words a little bit, but I do like Godwin a little more there tonight. Rashad White is interesting because obviously this Bucs rushing offense is no secret, has been horrific so far. I mean, if not the worst, one of the worst. But this Buffalo defense, it was honestly worse. It seems like earlier in the season, and now it's kind of flipped to where their pass game is getting exploited a lot more. But the Bills' rushing defense hasn't been fantastic. I know yards per carry, they're down a little lower, but like I said, the last few weeks, I know ETN obviously had a big game in London against them, but the Patriots, mostly went through the air against them. But this Bucs team seems to be, despite how bad they are on the run, seems to be pretty hell-bent on still trying to make it work. And so if there's a spot where White in this rushing offense could have some success, I wouldn't be shocked to see it tonight. But obviously if the Bills get up 14-0 in the first quarter, then, maybe they, panic a little bit and aren't doing the same thing. But optimistically, White, I think, had 6 catches or something like that through the air for the Bucs. So I don't hate White if he's a low price, as maybe this being one of the better playable spots for him. He's obviously been bad, but that's kind of where I'm at with that one. If you can get up at the low price, I do kind of like White there. And then, the Bills goes without saying, obviously. The interesting one, we can talk about it when we get there, or maybe, lead right into it. Diggs, this Bucs team has, just about every game, has really struggled to slow down leading receivers. I mean, I think the Saints was really the only where they, kind of dominated that game and kept most of their receivers neutralized. I guess all these other games, these leading receivers, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, even some of the games where they won, were putting up over 100 yards. I think Calvin Ridley, if I'm not mistaken, was it for the Jaguars, had over 100 yards. So a lot of these leading receivers, but then again, you look and Diggs is averaging almost 100 yards per game, coming off of a touchdown, but only 50, 60 yards last week, and his receiving totals in the in the mid 80s. So that one kind of scared me off a little bit with Diggs, as far as it seems like this should be a good bounce back for him. Would have liked to see that total a little bit higher if I was feeling real confident in him. But nonetheless, I've had other times where I try to predict a bad Stephon Diggs games, and those where he's got 9 catches, 150, and 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to back off of that one. And like you said, though, if you're taking Diggs, obviously you're paying a big price, too, if we're talking, DraftKings fantasy lineups. So, no, as far as depending on what the price is, I like Godwin. And if you can get a low price, I'd like White. And then, like you said, Otton, I like that one. Josh Allen could obviously have a nice game tonight, too. So it's not that I dislike Bills. I'm just assuming that most of their prices are going to be a little bit higher than, some of the other names that we're talking about here.
Yeah, and it's a good point because, it's a single lineup, meaning it's a single standalone game. And so every 9 out of 10 is going to have Buffalo stacked. The contrarian side, Marty, is obviously going on to the Baker Mayfield, with Evans, and then you pick a Diggs on the Buffalo side. If we knew we had the crystal ball, if we knew game flow, because again, if game flow gets out of hand and this becomes quicksand, like it did to the Raiders, like it did to the Dolphins, if you got Baker Mayfield who's got to throw the ball all around, then I think the Bills' defense, the pick 6 now comes into play, a few sacks here and there. So this game could get out of hand. And as much as desperate times it is in Buffalo, again, the same with the Bucks coming off a couple games losses in a row. And it's funny because you can go back to the Monday night game, San Fran at Minnesota, and everyone's got the mindset, oh, it's primetime Kirk, no Justin Jefferson. Well, we saw what happened. And in standalone games, when you wake up in the morning and you're just stuck on First Take or ESPN or Fox, or you're all over Twitter and Facebook and everyone's saying the same thing, by 5:42 you're just programmed and you're just like sheep, you're following the herd. And then lots of times you just got to go against the grain. It's the ones that make you go, I never thought of like that, like the Diamondbacks, or man, I there's no way the Rangers get to the World Series, but we do that after the fact, and the mind plays tricks on us. It really, really does, and so, I was going to follow up on our intro where to society is, and I'm not going to call anyone out here. Go on to Facebook and look at how many people put up these 10, 12, 15-legged parlays, and they just got one or two losses, and they're like, man, I was this close in turning $10 into 10,000. Well, that's the whole point. It's you wake up in the morning and you try it again, and if you're doing $10 or $20 a day times 7, that's $140 a week. Times 4 is $560 a month. Times 12, and you're talking about $6,500 a year. So you got to pop one or two of those to make it work. And I know it's entertainment. And getting back to ROI, Riley, that's why tracking is so key, because at the end of the day, at the end of the week, most people think of this as entertainment anyways. Hey, I got $150 a week for entertainment purposes, whether I go play darts or pool for the night, or better yet, not leave the house and play a couple parlays on DraftKings or FanDuel while I'm watching the games, and no one gets hurt that way.
Right. No, it's a good sermon as well on top of that. So we obviously, when I was talking, I didn't even mention parlays. So because it could go both ways, as far as you could see why you're losing so much money because you're putting so much parlays, or you might realize that you got fools of gold because you did hit some of those huge parlays and you think you're hot stuff, and then you realize now you're playing 10 straights in a row and you're 2-8. And it's like, well, what happened? I was so good. And it's like, well, you might have just hit a 20-unit parlay a couple times on some good fortune there, and you're not actually doing the right thing elsewhere. So, no, that's another great sermon there for sure. So, I don't know. Do you want to just go right into the NFL game? Keep it fresh here with what we're talking about and just hammer on the head. We've obviously made a lot of points here. So I have seen it move to 10 in a lot of spots, I guess, to give the general breakdown here. My app's refreshing. I seen it move to 10 in a lot of spots here. Did you see much of a public side? I mean, I know the Bills are more of a public side than the Bucks. I did see closer to a somewhat of a bet split that was even, but maybe a money split that was skewed towards the Bills. In this one here, I don't know if you saw something else there that I missed as far as uber public side or anything on the side spread.
No, I'm using Wager Talk to the right of me right now. 69% of the bets, 78% of the money all coming in Buffalo, and on the total, 62% on the over, but 53% on the under is the money side. So again, that's why the total hasn't moved any which way. I'm just going to say this out loud. I have a source here that the true number is 6. Okay. The true number was 6. That wasn't the number that was released to the public. 8 was the number released to the public, and they're slowly, death by 10,000 paper cuts, have moved it to 9, 9.5, and now 10 at circa right now, 10.05 5 cents. So the next moves back to 9.5. So I can guarantee you there'll be a lot of open money line parlays on the Bills tonight. There'll be a lot of teasers, 2-teamers at 9.5. They only got to win by 3. 3-teamers -9. They just got to win, and then obviously you got to tie it up later today, tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday. So it's one of these games that you're going to wake up. You'll know early. I'll just tell. I'll say it this way, Riley. Bills are -6 in the first half. So Vegas is giving you the carrot right there. Let's use a 6 with a 9 full game. Okay. They're telling you they expect fireworks early on the Buffalo side. They should be winning by 7 or more in the first half here. Do they play grab ass in the first half and just blow them out in the second half? Yeah, that definitely could happen. But they haven't put 30 minutes, never mind 45 or 60 minutes together in a long, long time. So ECSI VIPs who got our money line memo and our text know where we are on this game. I expect a more sense of urgency on the Buffalo side. I'll throw a prop out there. Yes, Baker Mayfield throws an interception. I'll even go a step further with a Buffalo defense touchdown anytime. How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah. No. I think I'm. Yeah. It's the sense of urgency that I'm with you on for sure, and that's kind of what's hesitating me with the Tampa Bay side on this one. As far as without any of that stuff. What had me, thinking about Tampa Bay was, I mean, we talked about it, you and I, after the first couple of weeks, and well, why is this Tampa Bay team look so good? Well, none of these first two couple teams, Tampa, Chicago, weren't getting they were keeping Baker Mayfield protected well, and this offense looked all right, moving the ball around, and then you get to the Eagles. The Eagles obviously caused a lot of problems for them. They bounced back against the Saints well, who obviously have a good defense, but the Saints defense was kind of sleepwalking in that game, and the Tampa Bay defense dominated that one completely. And now these last two, you've got two defenses that have been playing really well. We're able to, make Baker uncomfortable, obviously. And so if Buffalo, I guess what I'm saying is if Buffalo shows up the way they've been showing up 2 of these last 3 weeks, the way they did against Jacksonville and New England, then this Tampa Bay offense might be able to pass the ball a little bit, and maybe you've got a late Baker Mayfield success there in the second half where he's able to move the ball around. But again, like you said, you will know early. I mean, if Buffalo is getting out early, then it's obviously going to be rough. If Tampa Bay can play some good defense and control this one, then they've got a chance. Obviously, like I said, they seem I have a lot of issues with the way they call plays, but if this Buffalo defense isn't able to stop the run, then Tampa's going to keep doing it despite the lack of success they've had all season long, and it could work for them. So I still have a lot of respect for Tampa Bay's defense. I guess is another one that as this game goes on, I think they could make some adjustments and cause some trouble for Bills potentially in the second half there. But at the end of the day, I'm not totally out on this Bills team like a lot of people are, but it's just an inconsistent team as far as trying to predict them to make the Super Bowl. I'm not really, I'm not in that spot right now with them right now, but they obviously have shown that they can, whether it's bounce back or build off of, previous, success. They're still a team that can be a very good team and do enough. Like you said, maybe it's the first half and they slow down later, but you're probably going to get a good Bills half here, like you're saying, whether it's the first half there. Like you said with the carrot there, it seems like that is very possible there. But it wouldn't surprise me if this defense is not doing enough and the Bucs are able to move the ball a little bit as this game goes on, though, I guess is what I'm saying. So, and as we always talk, the last thing I'll say is I think I would have been interested in this Tampa Bay team total, and my brain wants me to be, but it's that 16.5 number where it's obviously the easy choices to get them to 17, but they're kind of in that boat there. So with that's probably going to keep me away from it. But kind of like I was saying with DraftKings, if I'm doing prop, I do like Chris Godwin. It was 55.5 receiving yards, so that's a small play that I've got on the Bucs side of things is Godwin yards.
And I'm going to circle back, no pun intended, circle the wagons here for the Bills here. Struggling to figure out the running back situation. We know about James Cook, a Georgia Bulldog graduate, a great pass catching back, a good first and second down back, but the Damian Harris on the IR. But for some reason, the thought process, especially in the red zone, to lean on Lat Murray, which he was great for me a million years ago. I don't know how he ever got involved in this offense. So for fantasy purpose, that's disgusting to me. Number one. Number two, I want to refresh everyone's memory to a couple Thursdays ago when the Eagles did come into Tampa, and that was a back and forth. You score, I score. I'll stop you. You stop me for 3 quarters. And if everyone remembers correctly, Buck Stall punt with 9 minutes and 38 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. And the Eagles never had to punt. They ran out the clock. Now, I said 9, not 3 minutes and 38, not 5 minutes and 38, 9 minutes and 38 seconds. The Eagles, 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, push. 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, push. And the fact of the matter is they were able to move the change, death by 10,000 paper cuts, and never had to relinquish the ball. They almost had almost 10 full minutes. So the Bucks can play. They can, the dumbest thing I'll ever say tonight, and I always say, if the Bucks win the turnover battle and Baker Mayfield does not throw a pick and they don't fumble, they're going to cover this game. How's that sound?
I'm with you. I'm almost I am leaning towards them covering this game because the Bills haven't been generating much pressure. I do trust them, and it's keeping me away. As I trust their coaching staff to have a good game plan tonight. I think that could get this one. Like we said, it could be a 13-point win, 14-point win, and it's really not that out of hand or anything like that. I think I do trust them enough because this Bucs team does have enough flaws that you should be able to exploit. But like you said, if he's protecting it and they're moving the ball at least to some degree, which I think they can, they're going to be able to. And I think obviously what ultimately could ruin the Bucs is a turnover or two. But I am leaning towards the Bucs covering the full game, but not enough to put my money down on it is where I'm at with myself here today.
Well, and I'll close with this is you talked about that 16.5 team total. Well, ECSI VIPs know that very well last night because I just think UTEP scored again. I just went back and looked at the tracker. I think they put up 37 last night with a 16.5 team total. I want to personally thank Sam Houston for that great defensive prowl last night. But we turned the page and move on, Riley.
Yeah, no, it's that's I mean, whatever. You'd rather lose a laugher like that than them getting a doink field goal in the last second to send it to overtime or something like that. You get a laugher to move on and not be too concerned about it. So I think you'd prefer that. But aside from that, excited to watch this one tonight. I'm hoping it's a good one, but. I don't think it's going to be a bad game. I don't think it's going to be a bad game, but then the next thing I know, you could get 21-3 Bills. So anything's possible in this one. But where should we go next, my friend? Any quick preview of World Series before we get moving on? I don't know if we talk too much about that. And obviously game 1 tomorrow. If you want to save it for tomorrow, then by all means, that's fine with me.
No, because you and I will not be here tomorrow. I have a show at 1, 3, and 5. On Fridays, we use Ron at Ron A Sports. We use that as our closing bell segment there. So you and I about the World Series. Listen, ECSI VIPs, hats off, Dr. Lance, hats off to TJ and a few others that are sitting here stress-free. They listen to our shows. They listen to the Nuggets in May, June, and July. Hey, you might want to buy a little of this, a little of that. And 28-1 on Texas, 15-1 on the Diamondbacks, 35-1 live for the World Series. And so, you make sure you get everything covered. You can have a little lean either which way you want to go there. A quick recap of what has transpired, very simply, is this is ECSI sent the first email out when the Diamondbacks game 1 back about a month ago, actually probably about 25 days ago in Milwaukee. We gave out the Diamondbacks in that series, and we said in quotation marks, look out for this Diamondback team. They could be last year's Phillies. And look They're here now, and they're in the 4 games away from a World Series. The line opened at 175 minus Texas, 155 plus on the D-backs, 2-3-2. First 2 games tomorrow and Saturday in Texas. Day off on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, back at Arizona. And then, if needed, travel day on Friday. If needed, Saturday and Sunday back in Texas. A Texas Ranger team that has not lost a road game yet. So keep an eye on that. Both pitching staff should be lined up perfectly. The assumption, would be probably what Merrill Kelly and Gallon and Kelly. And then the assumption I would assume Eovaldi and maybe Max, or Eovaldi and Montgomery. I'm not sure there. If you haven't dove into the World Series yet, and you wanted to do something pre-flop, I think you got to grab the plus 155 on Arizona to start. If you get a split, which I think you will in Texas, and then you come back home, you can wait and grab some Texas money on the plus, especially if Arizona wins game one. The Diamondbacks would go from plus 155 to minus 140. You could get Texas at a plus 120. If a perfect example of this is the Phillies win the first 2 against Arizona. Arizona takes the next 2, loses game 5. So now it's 3-2 Phillies going back to Philly. The same thing that could happen in the World Series. Well, the Phillies were minus 500, and you could have got the Diamondbacks plus 350, down 3-2, heading back on the road. So you can play the wait and see game as well. It's going to be a hell of a series, Riley.
Yeah, no, and it's in spots where you don't have a. Obviously, if you've got a hell-bent this is what I've been sitting on for a long time, and I still believe it, then obviously, that's probably what you're going to do. But in spots where you're, you think it's going to be a good series, that's the way to do it. You want to give do you have any, maybe you already have some thoughts on it, any World Series MVP on either side here to give out right now? Or maybe not give out, but any knee-jerk World Series MVP picks for either team?
We'll start with the basics. I mean, no one's hotter than Garcia, obviously, with the Rangers. And then, of course, Mr. Do It All, Corey Seager. Those are obviously the chalks for that side. I'm a big, Corbin Carroll guy in Arizona. But if you're trying to really peel the layers back and to get cute and sneaky here, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but someone that's been there before that might get 2 starts, that might have to come into a game 7, is someone like an Eovaldi for the Rangers. And then you look on the other side for the D-backs there, and it's slipping my mind right now, but what's the name of the closer for the D-backs?
It's slipping my mind as well. It's Leclerc is Texas.
Texas, yeah. I'm drawing a brain fart here. Hey,
Yeah.
TJ. Hey, Mr. Bill, what's up? I can't believe I'm drawing a brain cramp there. It will come to me. The closer, again, you get 4 close games coming into tight, high pressure situations, especially if it goes 6 or 7. If it's high scoring and then the closer comes in and shuts them down, or if it's a 1-0, 2-1 game, something out of the ordinary like that could steal. So Sewell, right? Sewell.
Oh, Sewell, yeah, Sewell, yes. Jeez.
What?
Yeah.
Do you have his number? What's his price in front of you?
I think that's why it wasn't getting jogged my memory. I don't even see it on my list here on this book, so they're not even letting you. They're not even giving you an offering on that one. So I might have to take a second to get. They're trying to hide it from us. That's what's going on here. No, I don't know. I didn't see it on that one. I'll see if I can find it on another one. But I have to imagine that's a pretty hefty price, is what I would guess.
Anyone on your side?
Yeah, they're not giving it to me on this other one either. So no, I don't know. Actually, one book's got Corey Seager ahead of Garcia and on odds. That's interesting there. I'll go. I'll go Ketel Marte for the Diamondbacks, which is a little chalky, but like you said, a lot of people love Corbin Carroll. I like a little Ketel Marte. And you and I kept saying it. I know you said it maybe a few more times than I did, and I think maybe I did when I was solo one day. But I'll go Marcus Semien to heat up here and make a bigger impact here. That's why I'll go on the Texas side is a Marcus Semien.
There's TJ reaching out to us. Ex-Met Paul Sewald. Yep, you are right. Again, I mean that's a beer and pizza scratch right there.
Yeah.
ECSI VIPs, TJ, Billy. I'll have a breakdown at some point, maybe tomorrow afternoon, or obviously before first pitch. TJ sitting in the catbird seat. Christmas already set. Don't forget those guys that have November birthdays. TJ Hinton, November 9th. Scorpio. Just kidding. But anyways, it's good to see, two different teams. I know the world was all waiting for Houston and the Phillies, the rematch there. But, it's good to see two different teams. And at the end of the day, we got a week, 8-9 days left. And someone will be crowned champs. And I do want to add this, by the way. I did on the last show, obviously the hot stove, the free agent market, the race to Shohei Ohtani, who gets him first. I talked about the Padres potentially at the All-Star break being sellers. They had an opportunity to get rid of Blake Snell. They had an opportunity to get rid of Josh Hader. They had an opportunity to get rid of Juan Soto, who's got 1 year left on his contract. They stayed put. They tried to make a run like the Angels did, and they came up short. Well, the Yankees, who I've said all along, by the way, are not going to land Shohei Ohtani. So why not get the next best thing? And this guy looks like a Yankee. He would fit perfect in the pinstripes. And sure enough, I read yesterday or the day before, Yankees already in talks with Padres for Juan Soto.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you have to feel like the Yankees got to either shake something up or get aggressive like that. So it wouldn't surprise me at all there as well. The thing I was looking for, kind of transitioning out of that and into the next spot here, NBA basketball, my friend, had a not quite as much of a full 16 game breakdown like you had for NHL the other day, but 12 games or so. Had some good looks, had some fun with that one yesterday. Only 2 games tonight, both of them TNT games, I believe. Philly and Milwaukee, and Phoenix and the Lakers. The Philly saga with James Harden continues. I was while you were talking, I was trying to read the official situation. Now that the new league rules that are trying to stop teams from resting healthy star players, former All-Stars. Since James Harden is a former All-Star, recent All-Star, and seemingly healthy, they have to give a reason as to why he's not playing. So I'm interested to see. Maybe they say personal matter. I'm interested to see what the quote-unquote reason for him not playing tonight is. But he will not be playing with them tonight, James Harden there, and probably never again, for what it's worth. But aside from that, most of these guys are fairly healthy here. You have the Bucks at home, -6 on the line that I'm seeing now. I think up. It was 6.5 a little bit ago, earlier today, but before that it was. I think the opening number was a little lower than that. I could be wrong. But anyways, it was 6.5 a few hours ago. Now 227.5 on the total. I don't have too many thoughts on this one, especially I with a Bucks team that is obviously fairly new as far as Dame Lillard. I have a lot of high hopes for this Bucks team overall. I'm probably gonna find myself going to some games because it's just as easy, if not easier, to get to and cheaper than my Bulls, despite championship contenders. So take that for what it's worth. But I'll probably be finding myself going up there a few times this year. But you obviously got to see some a team like this. You want to see what type of chemistry they have. I think it should work out for them. And then obviously the Sixers, are they brushing off the James Harden situation, or are they just kind of powering through it, or are they going to be dealing with it and sick of it, and it's going to be affecting them? I don't know. So I don't have too much of a strong thought on. I had stronger thoughts on a lot more of the games yesterday, but this one kind of does seem fair. in both ways, it's kind of a situation where if we're talking just straight up on the spread here, you go against Bucks. That's when you got an unbelievable Giannis performance, and you're shaking your fist that you win against Giannis. You go against the Sixers team. That's when you could get a spirited Joel Embiid performance on night one here, and he's leading you to a cover or an upset for the Sixers there. So I don't really know what to make out of this one. I am for the most part leaving this one on the table with the primetime game here with with his TNT game here, but. I don't know about you. Philly 110.5, Bucks 116.5 or 117.5. Any feeling on this one at all?
Well, I don't know if again. Don't forget, NBA is famous for this Thursday night, 2 standalone games. The numbers are so spot on, and there's usually 4 high-profile teams. The funny part of it is one of our sources. 90% of the bets and 94% of the money is all on Milwaukee, yet the line won't get off for 6 or 6.5. So something smells to holy heaven here. Now, is it in this game or is it the second game? And the second game, just happens to be the Lakers coming off their first game, which they lost at Denver. And just so happens that the Suns have no Devin Booker or Bradley Beal. So that true number is 1, and that is 6 as well. So something smells fishy in NBA land. So I'll take the initial bite. I think the Sixers with no Harden, which is probably good for them long term, find a way to cover, sprinkle a little beer and pizza to shock the world, to beat them outright. Embiid outplays Giannis. Dame time will have to be on Saturday or Sunday when their next game is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you on either of those. Like you said, these Thursday standalone games with the big teams, like you said, it's tough to get into. I much prefer a big slate like yesterday, where you've got some random games that you can pick and choose from. And yeah, that Lakers team, especially, it's interesting it's going to be interesting to see what they've got. I think while they're healthy, they're going to be playing hard, obviously, and trying to win some games. But it's a team that doesn't have a ton of depth. I think they could obviously make a trade and make some moves happen. So the fact that they're sitting like that against basically Kevin Durant. And like you said, there is something going on there, and I'll agree with you. I'll lean, if either of these 2 underdogs are covering, I'll go towards the Sixers as well there, and the Lakers should be showing out. But I'm still waiting to trust this Lakers team. Honestly, it's only been one night since they played, and they played the defending champs. But even without that first game, I'm still kind of taking an approach on waiting to see what this Lakers are, on a consistent basis, if they can be consistent, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So. Had a lot of fun with yesterday, though, and had some good success, though, yesterday.
Well, the funny thing, can you read the headlines tomorrow morning, or can you hear Colin Cowherd at 12:01? KD and Suns shine over LA. And KD puts up 56, and the Suns boat race the Lakers. Lakers now 0-2. What are you going to do when Booker and Beal are healthy?
Yeah, no, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because, the Suns have some decent depth, too. And, without these guys, then obviously that depth might not be as deep tonight. But their starting lineup is going to be, they've still got some guys that can score tonight. So, and this Lakers team, going back to last year, like I said, I'm not judging it off of one game against the defending champs. I do feel like they are missing that one other piece in their starting lineup, to where I like Austin Reeves, but if you had Austin Reeves as your 6th man coming off the bench, I'd feel a lot better about this Lakers team if they had a different option there. So no disrespect to Austin Reeves. He's become a nice player for sure, but would love it if they had another, for the Lakers' sake, would love it if they had one more option there to lean on offensively there. So we can move on from that one. I think there's plenty of games going on this weekend as well. Don't need to talk about my Bulls having a players meeting after one freaking game. I don't know if you saw that headline, my man, but good grief, 1 game, 20-point loss, and we're already doing tell the coach to get out of the room so we can chat here. My goodness, man. I'll move on from that one. I don't need to go off on a Bulls rant. I won't rant on night one. I hope that they bounce back because of it tomorrow, or I think tomorrow. But nonetheless. Yeah. Actually, last thing for the NBA. Wembanyama debut last night. Didn't play a ton of minutes. Looked very good down the stretch. It was a later game, so I was dozing. But what I did see, he was looking really good, and just not enough, overall to overcome that one late there. But he did look good. But obviously, for using a different type of sport, kind of putting him on a pitch count a little bit there. But I kind of talked about it yesterday when I was doing a little bit of season preview for these teams. With all the hype going on, their projected season win total, I think, is either 27.5 or 29.5. I don't remember. And it was like a 7.5 game increase with all the hype. Seemed a little fishy as compared to, you compare that to a Detroit team that has got a 10 game, 17 wins last year. Now their season total is 27.5. Maybe it's not apples or oranges, but when you think about it in that sense, it was at least maybe pump the brakes on, hammering home the Spurs on night one, and especially these next handful of weeks. Again, if they're letting him, if he's healthy enough and good enough to go all these games, then they'll obviously win some games. But it's still a bad team. Reminds me a lot of the Blackhawks when again, apples and oranges, but when Bedard's not on the ice, this Blackhawks team looks pretty horrific, like it did last year, much like the Spurs team is probably going to, with the lack of talent they got around Wembanyama. And I said they do have some offensive pieces, but still a bad team. So that was the last thing that I wanted to mention NBA-wise.
Well, the funny is, I was on the show in LA before this show, and Pops was on a rant. His headline was, NBA ploy and marketing on Wembanyama. Is it a ploy or marketing deal? And the funny thing is, don't forget, go back to the start of summer games. Wembanyama got pantsed in the first game, and then the whole world called him a fraud, a fake. And then he goes out in the second game and goes like 22, 17, 10, and 4, almost like a quadruple double or something stupid like that. And I says he's kind of got the frame of a Ralph Sampson right now, and people are looking at me. Just Google Ralph Sampson if you don't know who Ralph Sampson is. First NBA bucket, a three-pointer. Of course, that's what the league has turned to. And the fact is, he didn't go to Duke. He didn't go to Carolina. He didn't go play for Tom Izzo at Michigan State. He's coming over from France. Okay, so it's going to take him some time to learn the NBA and the NBA game. What better coach than Pop? Who did Pop have as centers? Let me see. David Robinson. Oh, and Tim Duncan. And do you want to know the funny? I don't know if you saw this on social media. He had the identical stats that Tim Duncan did in his first game in the NBA.
I actually did not see that. That's pretty freaking wild. No, as long as he stays healthy, I'm very high on him. And that goes without saying. But no, he could be one of the faces of the league as long as he stays intact. But like you said, that's a good point as far as learning the game that I think not a lot of people really thought about coming into this one, because the vice versa, the U.S. guys go to the FIBA and whatnot and say, hey, it is a little bit different. We got to learn their game when we go over here, and obviously struggle every once in a while. So that's a great point to make. So I don't know. Did you want to go NHL real quick, or we got Big 10 stuff to talk about? Did you want to break down NHL real quick?
Yeah, everyone just grab your pen and pad. I'll just go over some team totals like I did on Tuesday night for the Frozen Frenzy. I think I did pretty good on Tuesday too on these team totals. Again, pizza and beer money, just what the eyes are seeing and what the marketing is telling me. I'm just going top from bottom on the rotations. Kind of comical. Tampa Bay shuts out the Hurricanes on Tuesday, and now they give San Jose, who's considered one of the worst teams in the NHL, a 2.5 team total, juiced at -120. Just for poops and giggles, take San Jose even money to get to 3 tonight. They shut out the Hurricanes. The goalie's not that good, trust me. Vasilevsky out for 2 months, so maybe San Jose can get a field goal there. ECSI VIPs know where I stand on the Winnipeg-Detroit game there. They're Seattle, Carolina. Carolina started out west, and now this is their home opener. I used the Bronx Zoo theory here. Listen, they didn't play great on the West. They just lost at home lost at Tampa on Tuesday. I expect a gritty effort from Carolina. I don't expect a high-octane offense. I look for them to get a lift from the crowd, but I'm not jumping in balls to the wall here. So I'm going to pass on Seattle, Carolina, wait till the weekend to get back on Carolina. Then Anaheim and the Bruins out west come back home. The Ducks, I'm right, Bruins are 6-0 with the Avs and Vegas. This Anaheim Duck team is not good. Now they moved the Bruins team total to 3.5 over 140. It was 130 all day. Just stay away. Don't play the Bruins in regulation. Don't play the Bruins minus a goal and a half either. Just pass on that. But trust me, the Bruins will win. Don't get me wrong. The Bruins will win, but just stay away. Avs undefeated, like I said. Their team total 3.5 juiced under minus 115. Get the Avs tonight 3.5 team total plus 105 to get to 4. That could be interesting. The Wild have been running wild offensively. You can get their team total over 3.5 at plus 135 at Philly tonight. This one intrigues me. Ottawa, who's had a pretty decent start, scoring a lot of goals at the Islanders. You can get the Islanders team total over 3.5 plus 125 tonight. I really think the Islanders will score 4 or better. I don't care who wins that game. If the game of the night, Toronto at Dallas, both team totals 3.5 juiced under minus 150. The over under is 7. So the first 1 to 4 wins this game. So whoever you like in this game, who cares who wins? Just take their team total over 3.5. You can get that plus 130. And last but not, Rangers at Edmonton. I like the Rangers to win here. I don't want to pay the price. Edmonton struggling real bad, especially defensively. And at goalie, Connor McDavid still out. Get their team total over 3.5 at plus 125. And St. Louis, Calgary, everyone with ECSI VIPs know my thoughts on that one as well.
I love it, my friend. Yeah, it's like you said, get your pen and pencil, paper out, whatever you need to track it all down. Because did you? I guess we didn't talk since then, but did you watch? Did you enjoy the Frozen Frenzy on what is it, Tuesday night? The 16 game ESPN Red Zone, whatever it was.
Here's the truth be told, I was on the 2 lowest scoring games. We had the Hurricanes team total over 3.5. They got outscored 3-0. And then we had Nashville team total over 3.5. They were 3-2 after 2. Needed to tie the game 3-3, bring it to overtime. 2-man advantage the last 3.5 minutes, couldn't get it there. But I loved it. I thought they did an amazing job. They're on to something. It was like this, and you'll really understand this one, Riley. You're watching a golf tournament, and then they go and they say, Riley Magnuson lining up a 45-footer. They cut to it, and you know it's going in. Every time they cut to a game, there was a goal scored, and it was amazing. I think the grand salami for the night was like around 107, and they scored 102 or 103 goals. The record for one day of NHL scoring, they missed that record by 2 or 3 goals. But every 2 seconds, it was a goal. But they did a great job. Hats off to Bucci Gross. Hats off to Mr. Weeks. Hats off to ESPN. I hope they do more of that.
No, I'm with you. It was fantastic. Like I said, I was supportive of it. And it took me away from. I tried to switch back and forth, and then the NBA game got out of hand a little bit, so I stopped watching the NBA game. But 90% of my screen I got my World Series, or not World Series, baseball game on the one, and had the switching from that in the NBA. And 80% of the time it was on that hockey broadcast. So I was with you. They obviously, and like everything, I'm sure they can obviously improve it and make it a little better, and maybe they do it for a 10-game slate as opposed to the wait until it's a 16-game slate, and it's a little easier to move around to all these games. But that was a great point though, as far as you pop into a game and you know something's coming. So no, that was good. I like that. Move. Go ahead.
No, and unfortunately, Connor Bedard did score, and then 30 seconds later they go upstairs and they, he was offsides. But I mean, get rid of that. It was a goal. Okay, you should not be able to go back on a play after 15 seconds. So in other words, if you are offsides and you're still controlling the puck for another 15, 20, you cannot go back and replay it. End it. Stop. It was a clean goal. Let's move on.
I'm with you on that one. I mean, I like you said, I'm not like I say, I'm not the hockey guy, but and not because it's Connor Bedard in question here, but no, I was celebrating that one. I went out of the room, and then my girlfriend, who was cooking in the kitchen, is screaming at me that they took it off, and I am running back in. I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So, moving on from that one. Like I said, I enjoy. That was good because obviously they're going to show Connor Bedard, and it's fun to watch the Blackhawks when Connor Bedard's on the ice, but it's rough when he's not. So, it's been, but nonetheless, they've played a very hard schedule. But anyways. Going on, before we wrap up, touching on a few of these Big Ten football games that are coming up this weekend, my friend. We've got, I want to say 5 of them. Nothing earth-shattering going on in the Big Ten this week, but at least a few games we're talking about. Michigan not in action this week with everything going on surrounding their program. Let's see. There's 10 teams in action. Illinois not in action either. A couple other teams as well. I don't need to break them all down here, but a couple of one very big spread here with Penn State in a bounce-back spot at home against Indiana is one of these first 2 that are up here. 32-point spread on this one. Indiana has obviously not looked good. They don't have much firepower to show for it all. Defense has been okay at times. Has kept them, from getting totally embarrassed at certain times. But nonetheless, probably not one that I'm going to be finding myself too interested unless it's close, obviously. Definitely expect with Penn State probably still feeling like they can salvage the season. And, obviously if they win out, they're still in position to potentially be where they need to be, potentially. But nonetheless, 38.5 on the team total. Maybe we like this Penn State team to have an offensive bounce back. Indiana 6.5 on the game total. I like Penn State, but they're not exactly bullying teams the way. I mean, this looks like a Michigan, spread in team totals as far as either of these teams go here. So. For sure feel like Penn State's going to bounce back and take care of business, but as much as I've liked them, and, obviously their offense looked terrible last week, it wouldn't surprise me if Indiana put up a touchdown or, 9 points, 3 field goals or something like that. I don't know. Any thoughts on this one whatsoever? I don't have strong thoughts either way for this game.
Well, my original numbers was 31 with a 44.5, and I was trying to do the quick math, 37-7. The current numbers as we speak at circa 32 with a 46. So again, you're back, and I knew they'd give you the 6.5. They gave you the 38.5. Don't forget, before the Ohio State game, Mr. Franklin was 5-0 on not just outright wins, but covering. And he's made sure on 2 of those games that he got to cover late with no reason not to kneel on the ball or fake a spike. So if you like Indiana today in this game, I would just go over the 6.5 on the team total, get a touchdown, and then change the game and go to something else. I think Penn State could be sluggish in the first half. Don't forget, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, though. Next Saturday in Happy Valley, isn't Michigan coming to town?
I believe you are. Yep. No. Sorry. They've got, they're going to Maryland first. They're going to Maryland first, then they bring Michigan into Penn State.
Okay, so all right, so it's a good bounce back spot, and geez, that's kind of tough on them because going to Maryland will not be as easy as it looks, and then getting Michigan. So look for Franklin to try to cover. I guess I would say this. I would take the Penn State team total over the 37, 38.5 or whatever. Look for him just trying to keep score because don't forget, one loss, they need the perfect storm now. They need Michigan. They need to beat Michigan, and then I think they need help with Michigan beating Ohio State, and then right then I don't even know who gets in. So
right, and if they're a one-loss team but not in the Big Ten title, maybe they get lucky like Ohio State did last year, and there's enough carnage where they still sneak in the top 4. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, you and I are very good at those, like, not this week, but, man, they got to go to Maryland before they got that Michigan game. I don't know. You and I, Big Ten football and basketball, you and I have been very good at, well, I don't know. That one could get a little shaky there for them. So, no, Indiana shouldn't pose much of a threat for them here, but obviously, yeah, a goofy one there. Maryland Northwestern, the same game time. The early game there on Saturday in Northwestern. Speaking of Maryland, I mean, obviously, not a lot of nice things to say about this Northwestern program. I think they've probably, I would say certainly, they got a Big Ten win under their belt. They hung with Penn State for the first half of that game. Didn't get embarrassed by Nebraska. I guess I'm saying not as much of an embarrassment on the field as people projected them to be. They're still arguably the worst team in the conference. I'm not trying to say that they're not, or if not the worst, one of the worst. But, I mean, a 14-point spread is a 13.5, 14-point spread is very similar to what Maryland had against Illinois, almost identical, actually. Game total a little bit lower on this one. I imagine Maryland's offense, I'm with you on that one. 16.5 game total, team total. Maryland 30.5. I think they'll be able to move the ball, but wouldn't surprise me if they had some turnovers, Maryland there. So you're never going to get me arguing with you if you're telling me a team is going to go into Northwestern at noon, 11 a.m. our time, and tell me that they're going to be sleepwalking for a half there. You're never going to get me arguing with me or arguing with you on that one. So would not shock me at all in their case. With it's a bounce-back game. They did get a bye week, but like we were just talking about, they've got to look ahead to Penn State. And, if they play with their food, they're still probably looking ahead to that Penn State game no matter what. So not saying Northwestern wins this game, but it could be a more of a competitive game, and Northwestern making this an ugly one, or maybe Maryland's just flat-out sleepwalking in this one.
Yeah, last week when we were doing this, I did say that number was way too high. Something smelled, and sure enough, I didn't expect them to win the game outright, but they did go ahead and win the game outright. And it's kind of funny, Riley, because my true number here was 13 with a 49. There's only one way that number can go, and that's up, and it is. It's at 14 right now, minus 8 cents, which means it's on its way to 14.5. The total went from 49 to 48. An early start, and we talked about it a few minutes ago. Playing at home next week against Penn State, they could give a rat's ass about what's in front of them with Northwestern. I'm not going to say on record Northwestern wins this game. I do like them in a good spot to cover. If you wanted to get cute, sprinkle some beer and pizza money, obviously, on the Wildcats of Northwestern. But again, a perfect look-ahead spot for Maryland here. It reminds me of Oklahoma. Oklahoma was at home, though, against UCF last week, and was a 2-point conversion away to go into overtime. And as Oklahoma has a big game this week in Kansas. And so I like the points in this one, Riley.
Yes, and what was I going to say? I'll say close game in the first half, maybe even tied, maybe even Northwestern really hanging with them, and then I'll say Maryland wakes up in the second half and wins the game. But cover, and I don't know if they cover. Is where I'm at with this one. All right, 3 left. Michigan State, Minnesota. In the afternoon here, Michigan State obviously 2-5 on top of whatever they've got going on off the field. Absolutely lambasted by Michigan last week, 49-0 in their home building. Now going to a Minnesota team who obviously also got themselves destroyed by Michigan, lost to Northwestern. Otherwise, Minnesota would be in a very serious driver's seat. Maybe not driver's seat, but a serious chance of winning the Big Ten West if they hadn't lost that Northwestern game. Oddly enough, still kind of alive for it, especially if they can win this one. But you get the fair catch last week against Iowa, turn around, they go into Iowa, win a big game for their standards. Obviously, haven't won there, and I don't think they've won there in over 20 years in Iowa, so obviously a big emotional win for them there. Beat the absolute living hell out of Michigan State at Michigan State last year, 34-7. This Minnesota team, at times I've had a lot of liked a lot of things that they can do here. Defensively, I really do think their defense should be able to put up a good fight against this Michigan State team. Offensively, though, very inconsistent. So I almost want to lean towards the game total and under in this one kind of being another paint drying game, my friend. But Minnesota kind of getting their feet underneath them, I think. Offensively challenged for the most part. Kaliak Manis, still not a very good quarterback, not as good as what you had last year in Tanner Morgan. In Michigan State, this offense is putrid. Their defense is bad, but I'm curious to see. It wouldn't surprise me if this is a 17-14 game. So I am leaning towards this game just going to the under. But you say that, and then you might have some fluke, whether it's a pick six or an 80-yard touchdown or something like that. So I'm really not that interested in this one. I'm not interested in laying 7 with Minnesota really against anybody, but also not going to trust Michigan as much as I got to admit. Obviously, I got Michigan State on my shirt right now. That's just for the sake of showing up to a Big Ten show with a Big Ten team on my chest, not because I support Michigan State or anything like that in this game. But like I said, not laying a 7 with Minnesota against really anybody. That's not something I'm interested in, and don't like anything of what's going on in Michigan State on or off the field right now to trust them in any capacity either.
No, and I have to agree with you there. And Michigan had no problem just running up the score. And they're that good, but it was that also the same side as Michigan State just not giving a rat's ass, no pride, no nothing. There's a lot of bad stuff going on there. But I'll just say this. My number is 7.5 for the 41. DraftKings is 7, circa 7.5. And the under over is 40.5. I was born at night, Riley, not last night. That line ain't moving. If you Venmo'd me $100 to bet on Michigan State on Saturday, I'd Venmo you $200 back and tell you to take the bride out. That line ain't moving. This is probably the stench of the Big Ten of the week. As much as I says that Northwestern, and you're right. If you like Northwestern, make sure you play them in the first half, please, because Tua and company, Tagovailoa could put up a bunch in the second half. This game reeks to holy hell. That's just what's going on. And I know Minnesota's offense is and it's like paint dry. Trying to go in there and play. Something's up here. That number should be 9, 9.5, 10.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you, and I really think it's a situation where I don't want to say, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I mean Michigan State was beating Rutgers for a good majority of that game, and then Rutgers kind of pulled a rabbit out of their hat and won that game. So if they can show up in any capacity like they did there for the first chunk of that game, then you're right. This one will be a lot closer, than what people are giving them credit for. So. No, I mean, on top of what you said, it's a situation where Minnesota just isn't good enough for me to be laying that many points with them there. They covered 9 against UL Lafayette, and that's their only covering as favorites here, a Sun Belt team. So, no, I'm with you. It is definitely pretty damn stinky there in Minnesota. All right, Nebraska. The Cornhuskers hosting a Purdue team, 2-5 Purdue team, 2.5-point favorites at home here. This one kind of smells a little bit as well, my friend. However, I have been very vocal. I think Purdue did show up in that Illinois game. That was the one they showed up in. They've had a lot of other numbers like similar to this, plus 2.5 on the road in Iowa, and they can't get it done. Plus 17 against Ohio State seems insane that there was that close of a spread after what we saw there. So I want to believe in this Nebraska defense to slow down this Purdue team, but obviously, I mean, offensively challenged. Nebraska is offensively challenged. They've looked better these last 2 weeks, but that's against the Northwestern and Illinois team. Caught Illinois before this Illinois surge that we've seen the last 2 weeks here, and took care of business against Northwestern, who does not have much of an offense here. Purdue's offense at times has shown that they can move the ball. So from that respect, if Nebraska's offense, unless they're pulling a rabbit out of their hat, I don't like this Purdue team at all, but I don't trust Nebraska to, outpace them offensively. As much as I think Nebraska has the better defense in this game, both these offenses, Purdue does have a better offense in my opinion here, even at 2-5 here. So I don't know. Are you thinking this is an upset waiting to happen here as a short upset here, or another one where we need to, keep taking advantage of Purdue getting too much respect here from what at least what I've been able to take advantage of the past handful of weeks?
My true number was 3 with 43. Vegas had this pegged at 23-20 Nebraska. The line is down to 2.5, and it looks like on its way to 2. Total is down to 39. So, 21-17 maybe. Rooting for Nebraska, still waiting for that day. Again, as you said, Purdue's had these numbers trickle down like this. Big Ten in general, Iowa's had a few of these. The value is Nebraska money line. I wouldn't leave a point or two. I wouldn't buy a hook if you play Nebraska the money line, but there is money coming in on Purdue. Now, whether it's true or not, because this is the slow drip effect here. So what I like to do is I like to tell everyone this. Tonight is Texas, meaning the Texas oil money flies into Vegas on Thursday nights. Then on Friday, the California money comes into Vegas on Friday nights. So let's see where the Texas oil money's coming in. See which way when I wake up in the morning, which way this number's going, and then again Saturday when the California money comes crawling in Friday night. But gun to my head, 23-17 Nebraska.
I'm fine with it. I really am, and I it's going to be a hard pill for me to swallow to do anything with this Purdue team this week, just because of of all the takes that I've had on the Big Ten is Purdue not getting way too much respect on a lot of these numbers has been one of my sounder takes, some more solid takes in the Big Ten, which obviously not I'm not getting any awards for that one necessarily, but you know what I mean here. So. If it happens again, I would not be surprised at all. And this Nebraska team, another team that we laughed about it because it is laughable. They do have an outside chance of making a run at the Big Ten West, and it's got to start here. So you would hope that they've got a motivated performance here at home. They've got they're at Michigan State next week. Don't have any Ohio State or Michigan left on their schedule, so they've got 5. Depending on how you split it, 5 games that they won't be more than 2 touchdown underdogs in, I guess is what I'll say at the very least there. So not a terrible defense, but obviously offensively still need to see more. So all right, last one up. I believe this one is the NBC late game on Saturday. 6:30 my time, 7:30 your time in Madison, Camp Randall. Wisconsin hosting Ohio State after that Ohio State-Penn State game last week. 14.5 on the full game spread, 45.5 on the game total. This Wisconsin team pulled a rabbit out of its hat at Illinois last week. Week before that, lose at home against Iowa. Just not quite as much. As far as Wisconsin is concerned, with Tanner Mordecai going down, an offense that was trending upwards has not been trending as nicely. Taking away that fourth quarter against Illinois, obviously, if they're building off of anything, it's that, and that's what you're looking at. But last 7 out of the last 8 quarters and beyond, trickling into the game before that, I want to say against Rutgers. Even against Rutgers, we talked about that Rutgers game, and I think it was you and I believing in Rutgers, if I'm not mistaken, last week, but using it now, turning on that Wisconsin. 24-13 the final, 24-6 at a certain point, but it was 10-0 going into half with Rutgers at the 5-yard line trying to score going into halftime, and Wisconsin runs a pick 6 back. So I guess what I'm saying is 17 offensive points at home against Rutgers after you had the coming out party essentially against Purdue, the full game where they actually play 60 minutes for the most part, look great, and then they on paper, on the scoreboard, looked like they handled Rutgers well, but didn't handle them as much as that scoreboard tells you. Obviously, offensively dominated by a very good Iowa defense, and then for the most of that game against Illinois, not good either side of the ball there. So Ohio State obviously coming in, you might say would be a potential letdown spot after that Penn State game. But obviously a team that's playing with a lot of pride and power right now. 30.5 on the team total for Ohio State, 14.5 for Wisconsin there. Ohio State has they're at Rutgers next week, so nothing not a they don't got Michigan next week, obviously, but you know what I'm trying to say here. Don't have much of a look at spot at Rutgers there, so 14.5 for a team that just beat Penn State is 7-0 and has had is before that has a couple of 20 and 30-point wins on them. Would like have seen it to be a little bit bigger, but this Wisconsin team is a little up and down. I think it's going to be a little, I guess, 28-17 type of game is kind of where I'm leaning to in this one. Wisconsin, they're going to get Wisconsin's best shot, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. I don't think Wisconsin's good enough to beat them this year. You've obviously had Wisconsin at home against Ohio State, put up good fights against Ohio State a few years ago. That was kind of in the more so in the Brett Bielema era, obviously. But you're going to get Wisconsin's best shot here. Defensively, Ohio State, I think, is still good enough to keep Wisconsin at bay and keep them at arm's length for the most part here. But I don't think it's going to be a total blowout here, I guess is where I'm at with this one.
Yeah, my true numbers are 14 with a 43.5, so that lands perfect almost in your 28-14 game. Currently at circa 45.5 of the 14.5. That 30.5 is a tease to make you say, well, Ohio State, of course, they can get to 31, 33, 34, 35 easily. And the 14.5 again for Wisconsin, well, they can't score, so therefore we'll take the under. We can get to 14, 13, 10, 7, yada, yada, yada. I would take the Wisconsin team total over the 14.5. I would take Wisconsin first half, probably plus 8 or 9, maybe 7.5, 8. Maybe a little sluggish Ohio State to start. Again, just off the Penn State. This Wisconsin team, Vegas was real bullish on them early this year. I kept asking you, man, these are some high over-unders. They were expecting a lot more on them offensively. As you said, been offensively challenged of late. I do know Ron Dane isn't walking through that door. Jonathan Taylor is not walking through that door. But as you said, very good and clearly, Ohio State's going to get their best shot. And we do remember some past games in Madison, prime time. That used to be one of the hardest places to go prime time was in Madison. And so expect fireworks early, then probably Ohio State leans on them third and fourth quarter. But I like Wisconsin first half. I like sprinkle a little beer and pizza money on them, even money line as well first half. And I like them to get over the 14.5 full game.
Yep, I'm with you. 28-17. I like that one there. Maybe even a little 28-20 action. No, because I mean, quarterback-wise, it is a little bit of a downgrade. I mean, I'm not expecting this Wisconsin offense to be that bad against this Ohio State team here. The quarterback, in my opinion, is not going to be as bad as Drew Aller was last week. Whether or not you think on paper they're better than Drew Aller is a different story, but Drew Aller was abysmal last week. So I have to imagine Wisconsin's offense and quarterback is going to be better than what they've got there. So I'm with you. Good God, that environment is one of my favorites in all of college football. And I think as we get on here with Luke Fickell at the helm, I think that place will be back in action. And I mean, it's not like they've been a pushover by any means, but obviously not as tough as it was for my entire lifetime and beyond. So that does it. Only 5 games in the Big 10 this week. The following week, also nothing too crazy, but you got Penn State, Minnesota, which could be a little interesting there, and some other games sprinkled in, and even that much closer to some Big 10 basketball talk and obviously college basketball talk coming around the corner as well, my friend. Getting excited for it each day that comes around.
Yeah, I went on my Ken Baum site just the other day, checking on some rankings, some stats, and some numbers. I saw Greg Peterson from VSiN's already got his over-unders and sides and stuff. November 6th, I guess that's the opening night where there's everyone's playing, I guess. So there's probably like 150 games or something. That's opening night. So, yes, we can't wait till then. Busy slate, busy day here in the studio. Obviously can't thank you enough. Can't thank everyone watching and listening, TJ, Billy, and the rest of the crew. Thank you. We did a lot on this show, from the Big 10 to a little World Series preview to, our own version of Frozen Puck Frenzy there, to the NBA. And then I'll just close with this, guys. Yes, we didn't forget, by the way, there is 2 college football games tonight. Syracuse at Virginia Tech. My true number was 3 with a 46.5. Now 2.5 with a 47.5. Syracuse started the season guns a-blazing, now kind of poo-pooed. Virginia Tech kind of trying to start a slow start, trying to get better. Number stinks to holy hell. I think Virginia Tech wins. I wouldn't leave the 2.5, and I really wouldn't play the game. And then Georgia State, Georgia Southern. My true number, Georgia Southern 2.5 with a 62.5, down to 1 with a 62.5. So money coming in on Georgia State. And I'll just look at some team totals for everyone as we wrap up here. Let's see if I can see anything on the team totals for you guys. Virginia Tech team total under 24.5 juiced minus 130. So Virginia Tech team total over 24.5 plus 110 there. Don't mind that at all. And then the other game, 30.5 juiced over, 31 juiced over, nothing there. So closing thoughts, Ryan.
Closing thoughts. Yeah, no, I don't have much to add on the college football slate. I've had a successful single on each of these 2 teams, Syracuse and Virginia Tech once, so I'm taking my money on each of them and running. Had Syracuse over Purdue earlier in the season, and then I can't remember if it was maybe I was against Virginia Tech against one of their Big Ten opponents earlier this season. I honestly don't remember which one it was. But nonetheless, 2-0 when betting against or on or against either of those teams. So I most likely won't be seeing them on my card, good or bad, the rest of the way for me there. But aside from that, no, I gave the sermon earlier than that. Don't have too much to add other than a great week. A lot of fun this week. Last piece of news, Vita Vea inactive for the Bucs tonight to circle all the way back around on the NFL that we started on, obviously. Tough one there. So that one does obviously hurt the Bucs defense there, but that one obviously not out of left field necessarily there. So Baker and Godwin are good to go as far as the Bucs. Also not 2 out of left field. Sounds like that's what we got. But aside from that, obviously we've got multiple leagues going on. So you gotta stay above your. Keep your head above water and keep your head on the swivel and make sure you're not going too crazy here and get ahead of yourself. But other than that, solid week, my friend. Excited for next week already.
Yes, no blindside hits here, guys. It's been a great week. Myself and Riley will be back on Monday with the closing bell. We'll have some times, whether it's 4, 4:30, or 5 throughout the week there. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, our usual fantasy show with Sean Childs. At 3 o'clock, 3 Men in a Box, Matt Grissom and, my brain's a pea right now. Matt Grissom and... Good God, that's how tired I am right now. Quentin Mills for the 3 Men in a Box. And then at 5 o'clock, our closing bell with Ron at Ron A Sports. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, the one, the only, Mr. Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one. We wish everyone a blessed day and evening. Enjoy Thirsty Thursday. Have a couple cold ones for us, and we will see you soon.